Morning everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler, but the one you came to see is right there, doing the things she loves to do, sniffing out the squirrels. How are you? Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you doing the things you love? I hope so, guys. I hope so. As we count down the final days to the big one, the North London derby. How are you feeling about that? Got to be honest, I am absolutely rattled with nerves. And it's a good feeling, it's a good vibe, because I usually go into this week, this particular fixture, pretty, almost, I wouldn't say tolerant, but almost conditioned to expect very little and institutionalized by the concept of just giving over 3 points to the old enemy. But this time around, I genuinely don't know how it's going to go. I look at their team, their 11, and I look at our 11. And you know what? I think it's the closest split where in basically every position, you could go either direction. In most positions, maybe not all positions, but you could pretty much find an Arsenal fan that could make a rationale and a reasoned judgment for, 9 Arsenal players in the team. But you could also find a Tottenham fan who could make a very logical argument for 9 Tottenham players in the team. It's that close at the moment. On form, I don't think Arsenal are, playing that well. I really don't. I think they're finding a way to get it done, which is what good teams do. But I don't think their form has been sensational. I think Saka looks a little bit off it. Martinelli's injured. Jesus can't get a minute. Nketiah's a little bit wasteful. If it wasn't for the form of Odegaard, who is sensational, I don't think Arsenal would have necessarily managed to get the points that they have. 13 from 15. Their backline, it looks solid as ever, but it looks like it can be gotten at. And Tottenham are a team that are on an incredible rich vein of, what should we call it, monster mentality efforts. Good form generally. Didn't think we played fantastic against Sheffield United. Apologies for the popping of the microphone. I didn't bring my filter out. I just think it could go either way. I think Tottenham are slow starters. Arsenal are incredibly fast starters. And I think that, to me, is where the game matters the most in my mind. How we start, how they start. Are we able to fend off the early onslaught, which I imagine will come? And it always seems to come at the start of the second half as well with Arsenal. They're very quick starters out of the traps. And Tottenham aren't. So what you don't want to see happen is to go 1-0 down early in the game. Then the atmosphere will just be incredible and difficult to not let that affect you. And I think if that happens, then obviously with the way that we play, we can be broken on again. And, you could end up 2-0 down at half time, and then it's going to be very difficult. If you do go 1-0 down, you have to fight back, get back into the game. Tottenham have shown that they're capable of doing that. Did it against Brentford, did it against Sheffield United. And, to me, we almost did it against Fulham for what it's worth, even though obviously the outcome then was a bad one over penalties. For me, it's how we start. Can we fend them off and then grow into the game? Sorry, buddy. And if we can grow into the game and get our foothold and start our passing and our confidence will grow, then I think it's there for the taking. I think Tottenham could actually go there and get the points. And if we do, it's going to be just a wonderful, wonderful thing. The momentum will obviously still be there. We'll still be right on the tails of Manchester City. It will have been the almost perfect start to the league, the almost perfect start for Ange Postecoglou to his tenure, and so far ahead of expectations for what most Tottenham fans had going into the season. And I think then, if that does happen that way, then obviously it's a little bit more reasonable for people to reconsider what it is that your expectations are for the season. I think until we know what happens against Arsenal, and until we know what happens against Liverpool maybe as well, I think it might be a little bit the early crow to be sitting here looking at the league table and thinking wonderful things can happen. Ange Postecoglou said, it's okay to dream, you're a fan. If that's what you want to do, then do it. Set your own expectations, it's up to us to meet them. Personally, whilst I love the narrative, I love the 180 on what we're used to in the horrible now bygone days of Antonio Conte, when it was miserable football, miserable press conferences, miserable optimism or lack thereof, telling everybody, no, don't get expectations that are too high. Keep your expectations low, be patient. So I'm a massive advocate of the positivity. What I would say though, if you give Tottenham fans an inch, they will take a mile. And I think some Tottenham fans are now going to reset their expectations because they have permission from Big Ange. And I think that if we are on the unfortunate side of a bad result on Sunday, and even more so if something bad happens against a brilliantly informed Liverpool right now, then you'll quickly see the reactions of, or the fallout from, I don't know how big or how large a section it will be, but the people that have taken his words, taken him at his word and reset their expectations and now believe that Tottenham are capable of winning a title. I don't think we're anything like that yet. I think we're a really great team to watch, and I think we have been on the right side of some really great results, but I don't think we've really had any of the major tests yet. I think people maybe thought because we beat Manchester United that was the Manchester United that they were supposed to be this season, the potential second place, the title challengers. And they're not, are they? Let's be honest. Manchester United are an absolute mess. And so in reality, we played Burnley, who are probably going to be a relegation candidate, Sheffield United, who are probably going to be a relegation candidate, Bournemouth, who are probably going to be, a mid-lower half table team, Manchester United, who at this stage look like they are a bottom half team, and Brentford, who, again, you never know what sort of Brentford you're going to get, but so I think we just have to wait a little bit before our expectations get reset. Ange gave us the green light, so if you want to go for it, go for it. But don't say I didn't warn you. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the negatives or the outcomes that won't happen. I want to talk about how the outcomes that we do want to happen can happen. And for me, as I say, it's all about starting fast. I think it's about individual battles being won. I think Van der Ven and Udogie are going to have absolute barnstorming games to suppress and curtail Ben White, who will get forward to join Saka, and of course Saka himself, one of the greatest right wingers in the Premier League, one of the greatest right wingers in world football right now. Doesn't feel like he's particularly on form though. So I don't know whether or not there's a bit of a niggling injury that hasn't healed yet, or whether he just hasn't started yet, but he's the sort of player that's going to get 2 or 3 opportunities in a game against Tottenham, and it's whether or not Mickey Van der Ven can make sure he shows him on the outside rather than the inside, and that Udogie can get back if he's caught in possession, if the transition happens, and the transitions will happen. Down the other side, you look at Trossard, and you think he's a really, really classy player, but I'd rather be facing Trossard than Martinelli. I'll be entirely honest with you. And again, I think it's about how quickly Porro can get back, and I think Porro will have a better time against Trossard than he will against Martinelli, so I'm okay with that setup. I think that Porro's a smarter player than Trossard and can figure out that one, especially with Romero next to him. Obviously, the real battle, I think, is going to be Bissouma against Odegaard, though. It's going to be a fascinating encounter, that one. Bissouma, one of the best sixes in the Premier League this season, if not the best six in the Premier League this season. Taken me by surprise just how comfortable he has found fitting into that particular role. I still think, though, there could be an opportunity to see him be playing in a different role if necessary. I think we've got options there. But he will be... How he plays on the day will be absolutely a monster determinant of what happens in the fixture. And Odegaard, look, like I said at the start, if it wasn't for him, I don't think Arsenal would have got some of the results, that they've got. He's not quite, I don't think, world class. If you're going to say that world class is top 3 or 4 in your position in the world, I don't think he's quite at that kind of De Bruyne level, but he will be at some point. He's got a lot of time on his side, and he looks just so effortless with the ball at his feet. For me personally, though, I'd probably still take James Maddison in my combined 11, based on maybe a little bit of bias. I don't know, maybe I'm biased. It's a difficult one because I think James Maddison's had an absolutely incredible start to the season generally. I didn't think he was that effective, or rather I think he was a bit more wasteful than he had normally been in the Sheffield United game. I think we resorted to a lot of pot shots from distance because we couldn't break them down, and yeah, that's going to happen. Against Arsenal, we're not going to have to worry about low blocks unless, of course, we're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go. And if we are, then you know what? You have to ask, where do we go to on the bench? And I think we are finally seeing the emergence of a weapon. I mentioned this yesterday, that comes in the vein, or the form, of Perisic and Richarlison. Bring them on at the same time. You've got a guy there in Perisic who can cross the ball with absolute brilliant accuracy, put it in the danger zone 95 times out of 100. And unfortunately, that goes to waste if you're playing Sonny in the 9, because he can't head the ball. So there's no real point in playing Perisic unless you're playing Richarlison. And if I'm entirely honest, maybe you could make a different argument on the other foot, like whether or not you want to play Richarlison without necessarily having Perisic on in low block games, when we're playing against the likes of Luton or Everton, Crystal Palace at home, those sorts of games where you're going to be up against, tough 10 men behind the ball stuff. Then maybe there's an argument for a Richie to start those games, and maybe Perisic too. But for sure, against teams where you're going to have the ball, but also not have the ball, and it's going to be end-to-end stuff, and I think that you have to use Sonny in the 9. I think he's going to have more space, more time to be dangerous against Arsenal than he did against Sheffield United. And I feel like we will be able to use and utilise the likes of Richie and Perisic quite effectively in those last 10 minutes. If we are 1-0 down, or if it is 1-1, something like that, or 2-2, whatever, you bring them on, you get a hold of the ball, you stick it into the area, you try and get a corner or two, or you try and get a free kick from out wide, and you give it to Perisic. And with Richarlison, you've got a guy now who's, I hope, getting a little bit more confidence, a little bit more self-belief back to attack the ball and see if we can get something from it. It's nice to think that we could look at the bench now and see Perisic and Richie and Brennan Johnson, who, by the way, is another tool, another weapon, a different type of weapon. When you're playing against a team, maybe you're 1-0 up in the game. Maybe somehow we've taken the lead, or you're 2-0 up, and then you bring Brennan Johnson on when Arsenal would have to throw everything at it, and they're gunning forward. And in that transition, when the likes of Udogie or Sarr or Bissouma win the ball back in the midfield third, and you've got the second fastest player in the Premier League, second only to Kyle Walker, allegedly, that can sit on the shoulder for the counter. It's lovely to see, isn't it? For the first time in a long time, I think we look through the team and I'm comfortable with the first team. And I'm looking at the attacking options on the bench, and I'm thinking we've got different ideas. We can run with different styles here. Something you like to see. Obviously, we still need defenders to come in and give some more kind of support for Romero and Van der Ven, as an injury will come to those at some point. Let's just hope it doesn't happen over the next 2 weeks, because otherwise the plans, best laid plans, could easily kind of unravel very quickly. But yeah, guys, to me, as I say, I think we've got options. I think the game will likely to be dependent on individual battles. Bissouma against Odegaard, Rice against Maddison, Porro against Trossard, and Udogie and Van der Ven trying to curtail Saka. But I think it's brilliantly poised, brilliantly balanced. I think it could go either way. There's going to be goals. And for me, the most important thing, though, is to start strong, weather the storm, let them have their first 10 minutes. The crowd will be up for it, but just stay strong. Don't go 1-0 down early, and then build into the first half. And you never know. It could just be a wonderful trip to the other side of North London. The horrible side of North London. Let me know your thoughts, guys. What are your predictions? I think I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go Bolshy and say Tottenham win it, Tottenham edge it. I think my head says score draw, but you know what, we don't do, well, we do actually, don't we? We try to do logic and divorce emotions on this channel. Yeah, you know what, I'm going to have to do it, sorry guys, I'm going to say 2-2, but I think that we'll come away and there'll be some issue, there'll be some event that happens where the referee has got himself involved at some point and has been too impactful in the outcome. There'll be some controversy. You're going to tell Mikel Arteta's going to be jumping up and down, waving his hands, screaming and shouting like the arrogant little git that he is. But let me know your thoughts. We shall see. It's all going to happen in 6 days' time. Watch-alongs will be happening on the channel, of course. And guys, like I always ask you now, if you haven't already, please jump over to Shameless Football. The link is in the title or in the description. And we'll see you over there where we talk about broader topics of football. But we'll include Tottenham, but not necessarily always be about Tottenham. Like, subscribe and comment, guys. And as always, bye-bye.